Intervarsity 2019. Congratulations for making it this far. In the panel is Romel, Sabrina, Haim, and Tim, debating on a motion about religion with Jesus as chair. Calling in Honorable Francis. Here. You should have used the opportunity to understand.
For the longest time, the Catholic Church has been criticized as a powerful institution in Vatican City, but is detached to the various problems of society. We concede that the Church, through its local archdiocese and through its local movements, have done a number of programs through its local churches to fight various social and economic problems. But what is the problem of current status quo? We believe that there is a continual rise of various social and economic problems, but the problem is the church continues to provide band-aid solutions, and there are no clear strategy from this church how, in a long-term way, are able to maybe, to some extent, provide solutions to this problem. And second, we continue to see the prevalence of historical injustice, the effects of historical injustice, starting from the Crusades up to the Spaniards' colonization of Asia, and up to today. We believe that the Catholic Church should atone to the problems. So what is liberation theology? Liberation theology is a concrete movement and strategy of the church to fight the various problems of social economic in terms of social economic problems in the world. But we believe it will not just rely on its archdiocese to make the necessary solutions, but the agenda, what to prioritize, and the clear long-term plans must come to the Catholic Church in the Vatican City, which is not currently happening in status quo. So what is the policy of opening government? The policy is simple. The Roman Catholic Church will first have to release certain documents, like the current document, Laudato Si, which provides a template on how archdiocese and Jesuit schools, even in the Philippines, on how to attack climate change and how to mitigate some of the effects of climate change. And second, they have to be more involved in terms of the grassroots program, provide a clear strategy and plan to the various archdioceses, so that the effects can trickle down to the various local churches. What is the goal of opening government? We do not promise that we solve all the problems in the world, but we believe that there is a moral justification and there is a moral responsibility coming from the Catholic Church, especially to the various historical injustices. What are the questions that I need to answer in this debate? First, what are the standards when we allow a certain policy to be adopted? And second, what is the moral justification and what is the moral responsibility of the Catholic Church in this situation? So first question, when do we adopt a certain policy or strategy? Clear. The principle is that if it is aligned with the principles of the institution. What are the principles of the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church promotes protection of the poor, protection of the vulnerable, and being aware of the various social and economic injustices that is happening. And we believe that we'll prove to you that this standard is viable. Let me go now to my two analyses. My two discussions will be, first, in terms of principle discussion, why the movement is legitimate, and second, why is there a moral obligation for the Catholic Church to atone for their past mistakes, at the same time, trying to mitigate some of the effects of the social economic problems today. First, why is the movement legitimate? The Catholic Church currently is the fighter of various social issues like here in the Philippines. And we see that in small programs like GKK or maybe various protests. But what is the problem? We believe that some of these protests are very short-term, or to some extent when they give donations to humanitarian crisis, are very temporal and very blown out. We believe there is no clear strategy from the Catholic Church how to approach the various social economic problems. Please be seated.
Right.
In the policy, first, the Church can better position themselves. Catholic Church. For the longest time, the Catholic Church has been criticized as a sitting church, a powerful institution in the Vatican City, and relies on its archdiocese here in the Philippines and in other countries to make their own global problems. We believe that that is problematic because one, there is no clear direction on how these strategies will go forward. And second, there is no clear guidance on how the Catholic Church wants to go about. That is why that is the beauty of the Laudato Si. When the Catholic Church released the Laudato Si, it provided a certain guidelines. It provided certain steps for people to be able to help, to some extent, help carbon footprint. The Catholic Church never promised to solve climate change, but they wanted to create a certain guideline in principle on how Jesuit schools in the Philippines, like Ateneo de Davao and Ateneo de Manila, and other Jesuit institutions, on how they're able to attack these kinds of institutions. And second, why is there a moral obligation for the church? The theological doctrine of the church is centered on the protection of the poor, the marginalized, and the vulnerable. We concede that there are already programs right now, like the GKK, where they provide maybe it's temporal food donations or temporal distributions or counseling to these kinds of people. But what is the problem? We believe that this is not enough. A number of historical injustices have been done in the past. Talk about imperialism. Talk about how the Spaniards, in the name of faith, entered the Philippines and created a lot of historical injustice. It might not be as implicit as today, but we see how we are divided in terms of socio-economic class. This was brought about by the feudalistic nature of the Spanish occupation back then. We believe that the church has to atone to those historical injustices. And we believe that there has to be a bigger incentive, that there has to be a bigger strategy for the church to solve that. What have I proven to you in this debate? What I've proven to you is first, the current initiatives of the Catholic Church are not enough. We believe that the church has to do more because they have done so much in the past. Second, we believe that this policy is aligned with the principles of the institution. They preach protecting the poor. They preach protecting the marginalized. And it's now to take that voice into simple steps. And finally, even in the worst case, that opening opposition later will accuse us, or opposition will accuse us, that this is an overstep of the responsibility of the church. We believe that this is a necessary thing, given that the state has failed in a lot of its obligations. And we believe that the state will welcome any help from any institutions that can help these kinds, that can help protect the various poor, the poorest and the marginalized and the vulnerable in the world. But how does the church enter? The church has to enter with a clear strategy, with a clear program. And we believe that that can be best achieved in the Liberation Theology, where now the Catholic Church has a clear direction, not just rely on its archdiocese, but really has an encyclical declaration coming from Vatican. And we believe that OG will protect the poor.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 24 seconds.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, to present the class from opening opposition, leader of opposition. Here's here. Thank you.
Well, we agree that the church is powerful and all that, and we agree that the problems existing in status quo. But we disagree with the solution. Madam Speaker, this is now a debate of how we then use that kind of power to solve this problem. And what we want instead, clear clash, what we want instead is a more peaceful approach, a more dialogical approach in this kind of instances. Why? Mainly because it is more effective, and mainly because it is more realistic than their theoretical approach to system. Now, Madam Speaker, now let me go first on to my rebuttal before my constructions. Two levels of rebuttals. First, they told us that the protection, the role of the church is to protect the poor, the protection of the vulnerable. Note, Madam Speaker, that this basically means that they're trying trying to mitigate possible harms existing in status quo, trying to mitigate possible harms that may happen in the future. But, Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker rather, that it is more you're trying to jeopardize your followers. We're going to have a more combative approach against the government, Mr. Speaker. But second, this is why it will not work. This is why their theoretical model will not work in the realistic world. But secondly, the grassroots. We say that the grassroots can still exist in our side. This is through bargaining, through if there are no compromisation that happen, with that can still happen through bargaining, that can still happen through movement, and so forth and so on. That is why their policy is value neutral or unrealistic at the end of the day. Now, what is our counter policy? Our counter policy is clear. We want a more dialogical approach. We want a more we want to have a more integrative approach. We want to reach compromise at the best case scenario. But the worst case scenario is that we don't want to jeopardize the lives of the individuals, the lives of the people who are following the church at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we still want to solve the problems, and this can still happen in our side. That is why our side is more effective and realistic. But on to my three arguments. Firstly, I'm going to tell you if the liberal theology is in line with the mission of the church. Secondly, I'm going to argue the effectivity and the harms of this if you launch their policy in comparison to ours. But lastly, I'm going to tell you what does this mean for the church and the worshippers at the end of the day. Firstly, is liberal theology in line with the mission of the church? What? Let me tell you what does the church do for us. The role of the church is to aid, is to gain, is to cater to the needs, is to uplift individual spirituality, or make people closer to God. Here. To have salvation at the end of the day, because people want it to be saved at the end of the day. Now, if you're going to launch the liberal theology, it will have an abrasive and combative approach against the government, Mr. Speaker. It challenges government structures. It challenges ongoing structures in status quo. Structures that are so powerful that it becomes difficult for you. It becomes, you jeopardize your followers at the extent of their lives, Mr. Speaker. It dilutes the line of the church and the state, mainly because, as he framed it, the church is a hegemony that is so powerful and has a lot of power, has a lot of followers. Now, it may be against the church, may be against the state, but then the solution can still be achieved. How? Grassroots movements, and so forth and so on, still existing in our side, but the exclusive benefit is not jeopardizing the lives of this individual. But now, so in that sense, you not necessarily put the lives of your followers at stake. But secondly, you try to have a more progressive laws, such as RH and so forth and so on, which is benefiting the most vulnerable in society at the end of the day, especially the poverty. Now, on to my second argument. What are the comparatives, or what are the harms, and why is this more effective in our side? Note, Mr. Speaker, that when he said that he had a really strong principle of persistence, but note, Mr. Speaker, that this is not a magic one to all the problems existing in status quo. Like, let's say, for example, in China, if you're a Catholic and you try to go against the government, you get kicked out, you get expelled. If you're in Latin America and you try to go against the government, you get ostracized by the government tries to get rid of you and you get ostracized. How? If you're going to go with our policy, in which it is more effective, in which it is more realistic, through dialogical, through conversation, and through a more peaceful approach, you become more and more effective in reaching your goal. And at the same time, being saving the life, not putting the lives of individuals at stake. That is why it is an exclusive benefit on our side, and we should err on the opening opposition's counter policy. But thirdly, individual worshippers. Firstly, the church wanted a strategic acculturation engagement to society. They want to adjust more to the country. So if you're the church and you're going to be a stupid actor and going against the government, who's still powerful and can take these individuals, can take your followers down by getting rid of them and by getting them expelled through under legal terms or whatsoever, you become a stupid actor. Unlike if the church will be more accepting, will be more open to ideas and hitting compromisation, we get to have a more realistic approach at the end of the day. But secondly, the people have this vision, these people are blind followers. Why? Mainly because if they do not err on the beliefs of the church, it harms them. Mainly because there is an existence of eternal damnation. Like what will happen at the end of the day if they did not err on the church's beliefs? One, they get ostracized by the church, but secondly, if they try to err on the side of the beliefs of the church, you get them ostracized. You get them, you put your life at stake. Mainly because you're going against powerful actors or in the government or whatsoever in society. So, what did I tell you? Firstly, I told you what our counter policy is, which is more effective and realistic. But secondly, I told you the exclusive benefit of having grassroots problem and reaching through agreements at the same time, trying to be risk averse of harms. But lastly, I told you what are the harms of individuals if they did not err on the side of the church or on the side of the government. On the side of the republic.
Speakers go for 7 minutes and 50 seconds.
Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition, to extend the opening governance case, EBM. Here.
Government cannot protect everyone. Sometimes they even contribute to the problems of the poor. It's therefore the role of the state subsidiary like the church when the government failed to do its job. There's a need to step in, and the policy of OG is the most effective way because it recognizes the root cause of poverty and even criticizes the root cause of poverty. What we get from opening opposition is just a plain and simple argumentation of they need to do something and we need to be peaceful in doing something. No analysis on how it's going to be peaceful, how are they going to implement it, and how peaceful is going to be the most effective way of pushing through their policy. No analysis coming from opening opposition. O says it will jeopardize the people, and we don't want the policy of opening government because it harms and threatens the life of the people. Number one, no analysis how harms automatically persist on our model. Just because we criticize the government, we automatically get killed, we automatically get harmed. No analysis. They only assume that it will automatically jeopardize people. But let's engage that even if they will be jeopardized, it happens in status quo already. They're already jeopardized, they're already suffering, they're already oppressed, even in status quo. Meaning, even if we follow their policy, oppression, jeopardy, making them in a state of jeopardy, will still happen on their side. The difference is they're not fighting back and they're allowing the continuous cycle of oppression to continue. Their only response is we need to be peaceful, we need to be critical in our actions and ensure that the church will do something about it as well. They tell us that we need to compromise, but the question then is, how will we compromise? Because there's no mechanization or analysis of how compromise will happen on their side. The best extent that they tell us that we will do it in grassroots. It was obvious to us that it will still happen on our side. We can go to grassroots, we can do all these programs that they presented. The difference is we have a targeted solution because it targets the root cause that criticizes the systemic problem that perpetuates the whole problem of the poor. That the cycle of poverty is inclined to the capitalist world and the capitalist system. And that's the real targeted subset that we get from opening government. What we get from opening opposition is a vague analysis that they need to do something and we need to be peaceful in doing it. Second, rebuttal. They tell us it's bad to challenge strong structure. This is highly inconsistent to them. Because even on peaceful means, they're already challenging strong structures. It's inconsistent. If what do they really want? Do they want to do something about it and challenge a strong system, or be silent and be peaceful? They need to decide, and by the time the TLO will speak, it's already a patch of policy. Second, these strong structures constantly oppress the people, even in status quo right now, meaning that even if we don't challenge them, engaging on their best case, that we don't hit the strong capitalist people, they're still being oppressed and harm is still present. That's why they tell us that it's dangerous because they will be ostracized. It's happening in status quo. It's even gives us more reason to fight back then. Because even in status quo that we are harmed, it now gives motivation for people to fight back and challenge the oppression even more. This is an answer to the effectivity that they're questioning. Because now, people are more motivated to act accordingly because they're constantly ostracized, and the big banner of the Roman Catholic is going to back them up. Even if they will be jeopardized, at least they fought hard. Second, they tell us that they're going to be blind followers. This is even problematic on their side and highly inconsistent. Because it's the same people that they want to follow. If they believe that it's going to be blind followers, who are the people that they want to follow them in this peaceful means? Meaning, if they believe that people are going to be blindly following the church, it also the heart is also present on their side. No clear analysis. But even this blind follower engaging on the extent of, yes, they may be diverse, it's even more strategic on our case because it heightens the effectivity of the movement now. Because people will be more loyal, people will be more supportive of the cause of the government. What will be my extension in this debate? I'll tell you by analyzing the psyche of the people. Number one, how the church will be effective using this policy. We tell you that the church is capable of convincing massive people due to the extent of the reach. What does this mean? It is a very strategic actor that can penetrate areas that no other actors can do, especially on the alternatives that follows. What are the alternatives? There are NGOs, there are government institutions. These are areas that even are perpetually criticized as something that are against the government. The likely scenario, people will not follow them or people will not believe their movement. That's why it's important for us to show that it's important for us to capitalize on the influence of the Catholic Church. They perceive it as something rightful, especially when they evoke a sense of authority during masses, encyclicals, and all those teachings in the Vatican. Meaning it's easier to penetrate the minds of the people compared to other actors that you're stuck with forcing them or even convincing them to follow the movement. In terms of effectivity, we clearly won the debate. Second, what are the political capital of the church? Because why is it more important? Because of the massive political capital of the church compared to NGOs and critics that are perceived as perpetual enemies of the state. Number one, the number of loyal supporters of the church is automatic. And second, financial capital to sustain a campaign is there. Regardless of the situation that we're going to follow why the state is the most valid actor, it means that they have the capacity to sustain a long drawn out fight against strong capitalism. Even engaging on their worst extent that we don't win, at least we were able to champion the plights of the people and this war to protect. It was clear coming from Prime Minister that there is a moral obligation of the church, especially when they contributed to the constant oppression of the poor, especially when in generation they were able to continuously they were an accessory to the crime that they committed. What does this prove then? It proves then that it's more effective than any other alternative, and it's even more targeted because it targets to the root cause of the problem. And why this specific narrative is then important? It is directly connected to the principles and goals of the church to protect the most vulnerable actors. They try to argue that they are also protecting the vulnerable actor, but also claim that the actors that they want to protect are blind followers. They also claim that they want to protect these people at a peaceful way, but not able to mechanize how is that going to happen. Second, even highlights the need for the policy, especially when the church was also an accessory to the injustices that the poor experienced in the past. This is a way to atone their past sins and the fulfillment to their moral obligation. We were very clear in pointing out the moral obligation and why this specific method is the ultimate method in trying to push for that obligation. And with all of those reasons, we are proud to propose.
Speakers spoke for 7 minutes and 6 seconds.
Thank you very much, PPM, to close the opening half, Deputy Leader Officer.
Here.
For someone who used to consider the seminary, it hurts to hear someone malign Mother Church. In opposition, we think opening government is a logical heretic on the following grounds, and there are four. Number one, extreme examples. First, in China, Russia, Latin America, democracy is a farce, the state fears religion, freedom is monitored. Combative liberal theology will invite a ban, a crackdown, expulsion, and punishment for the members who would remain there. So while we agree that we preach reunification with God in heaven, I'm sure for opening government they would agree with us that that unification does not need to happen today. Number two, in more modern examples like Brazil and the Philippines, the church is always replaceable by formal and informal institutions like opinion papers, broadsheets, you have student protests, and yes, if all else fails, twofold. But there are harms, Mr. Speaker, in the church engaging there. And first, I want to look at it from the perspective of the church and the perspective of society at large. From the church's perspective, you lose your voice in society when they disagree with your political position. That's why the church lost membership when it vehemently threw into attack BBS, all-time no membership, participation in church, no money to support and finance their charity work, kawawa naman. So, in the process, if your goal is salvation, you don't get there because people disagree with your politics, and that has perverse consequences on the other messages you want to send through. Ultimately, this, you suffer from what we call the horse effect because they disagree with one part of your politics, with one part of your message. Ultimately, the broad message by the church is rejected as well. Number three. So for worshippers, we say, what does this mean? So like politicians, sit down. Bishops are not immune to sin. That's why, the president, 2 presidents ago, she bought them, with vans, food, and mullah. So like in Iglesia he who must not be named, always, almost always, the politics of who we should vote for would go to the highest bidder. So for you to automatically assume that just because I belong to the church means that I am credible, one with integrity, one who is perfect, is to show ignorance of the politics of sin present in status quo and history. So worshippers in the process, according to your rely to them, become recipient of the politics of these bishops, or also recipients largely of money from politicians. So fine, we agree with your need to atone, which is the central argument for opening government. But to quote Papa, my mentor, you don't heal the hurt by doing something more hurtful. Ouch. That's why you stay away from the politics. Lastly, resistance in isolation opening government is not a value. This debate is about problem-solution mismatch. Because ultimately, in extreme examples, when you get kicked out, expelled, battered, and hurt, you don't get to solve anything. And in modern examples like the Philippines, where you disempower the church, lose its voice, no one will be able to constructively engage with you anymore. That's why, first argument, I want to look into what does adopting liberal technology mean to the church? It's so easy for open government to say, these are all band-aid solutions. These are not true. The church sends seminarians to preach in areas as far as Taluksangay and Zamboanga, where I come from. You mobilize contributions to build houses, and then you preach endurance, faith, and mercy in neighborhoods. Sit down, this is beautiful. In neighborhoods which were turned hopeless by their situation of poverty. Therefore, ultimately, all these little and moderate acts accrue to something big and beautiful, such as charity and community building, such as Tawag Kalinga. It invites the state eventually to partner with you, which sees as an ally in improving the lives of the community at large. And at times, the church invites you to provide spiritual counsel on matters of political affairs. During GMA's time, she eventually rejected abortion, rejected death penalty, etc., thanks to the guidance of bishops, who were not elected officials, only were limited to providing counsel, but not the ultimate arbiter of the truth. That's why we would rather that they play that particular role because it limits the threat of the politics of money and politics of stupidity. The politics of stupidity is wanting so much and not being able to do anything at all. Second argument, why is it in the interest of the worshippers for that status quo to remain? Karl Marx, once invoked, what happens when the church plays a political role is an execution of what we call a political parody. You have in status quo, I wanted to raise this POI. What is the term of tenure of these bishops? 5, 10 years? Are they beholden to anyone? Can they be swayed by popular opinion? Bishops, Mr. Speaker, historically have been active in trying to assume, the reins of power in government, control over wealth and funds, control over vast land, and transfer eventually of that wealth to their clan and family. You have unaccounted, unelected officials which are not beholden, bishops, who are not beholden to anyone in status quo. We worry that bishops, given their influence, are not transparent at all, because you can impeach a governor, you can impeach a president, but at no cost can you impeach a bishop, even when that individual poses a very threat, a very risk to the survival of that community, to the survival of that very mission. That's why we would rather, instead of liberal theology, according to my partner, we would engage in constructive, dialogical engagements with the state. That's why we preach a message that poverty is to be cured. We do charity work, we do community building. Eventually, it accrues to something big because the state sees them as a partner to nation building. That's why lastly we say that there is a problem in the execution of liberal theology. Why? The church, mother church, is always perfect, infallible, in items that could govern the moral. But when it comes to the execution of politics, almost always they differ. That's why you have a number of Mindanao bishops in favor of Duterte's policies, but not in Luzon. That's why you have what we call a communication breakdown, wherein you lose your integrity because while you belong to the same church, you send different compelling messages in the execution process, even attack each other. Therefore, that in theory of infallibility in execution is already eroded. Why does opening opposition win this debate? We've sent the message that it's fine to atone, it's fine to change the world, but you make it smart, Mr. Speaker. You make it workable. This debate is about problem, solution, matching, and clearly, we are happy to host. Thanks for listening.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Thank you very much to the Deputy Leader of Opposition, open the closing half, member of the board.
Jesus Christ should have said that with great power comes great responsibility. And in this world, the Catholic Church has two fundamental responsibilities, and I will argue them in order of importance. The first is clearly to enlighten people so that we save their souls from eternal damnation. The opening debate was highly dismissive of this core tenet, and I think it was Diallo who attempted to try to look at atonement and the value of atonement, but he never argued why we are more likely to get atonement under the other side. We will engage with that. The second thing that I think is important is obviously to reduce temporal suffering, but realize the tenets of the Catholic Church has been willing to trade off temporal suffering for the promise of a better afterlife. That's why at Mercy, the Church does say that gay people should carry our process, and our process is the suffering of being gay. And I think that is perfectly legitimate as a Catholic Church to make that trade-off, but I will argue why we still get better outcomes under our side. Let me first respond to the last bit of analysis that came out from Henry's speech. Because Henry said that there is a diverse set of opinions in the Catholic Church today, and they will now start attacking each other. Realize that it's a function of the lack of clarity or the lack of a singular theology that exists within the Catholic Church. In the model of government side by fiat, we are saying that we are adopting a singular ideology, which is liberation theology. He had to argue that people within the system are likely to fracture out of that. But if you argue that bishops also believe in theology, in the theology of the upper management level of the church, then I think it's likely that we still get the same consistent messaging throughout the endeavors. But I think opening government was able to fiat some good things that I think they needed to respond to. So I think the other things that he talked about is, we'll get bans and crackdowns in Russia and China. The reason why we have bans
and crackdowns in China is not because we criticize the church, but rather because we are a church. So I don't think it is fundamentally because that we are changing the theology that we will lead to more crackdown. It is the division of the theology and the belief systems within China that China is cracking down the Uyghur Muslims, even though the Uyghurs are just sitting in a camp somewhere. I think Russia hates Catholic Church because they are Orthodox. It is not because of whatever theology that the church believes in. So I think there's a fundamental misallocation of blame in opening opposition's case. But good attempt. I don't think opening government responded to it in any possible way. First, why we think that in the attempt to save the souls of individuals, this is the best way to do this. I think the goal is to make the Catholic Church great again. And to make the Catholic Church great is by having more members that believe in Jesus Christ, our Almighty Savior. How do you not do that in status quo? Realize that people know that I shouldn't believe in a God who's making me starve, who's making me suffer, who's making me die. Realize opening opposition clash on a political aspect, but not the economic suffering by which capitalism causes on people on the ground. I think closing the opposition might need to adjust the strategy for that. 3 reasons why people don't go to church anymore. And this is engaging with the reducing number of presence of Catholic church goers in status quo. 1. Realize that the felt suffering of poverty is clearer than the felt suffering of any hypothetical heaven that might be waiting for me in the afterlife. That means people would rather not go to church, but would go find money because it ensures that they are able to put food on the table and feed themselves. Second, I think the church that asks to people, poor people, to pay tithes and pledges is one that is not reflective of the clear need to feed yourself. So it is the division of resources as poor people that makes the church insensitive to the needs of people on the ground. I think the third reason why is that the church seems to care about other peripheral issues rather than my core issue of needing to eat and needing to be able to survive. This is the 3 fundamental reasons why we are losing ground among the masses. What has happened in its place? In its place has been the rise of anti-establishment politicians who demonize the church because of the participation of the church in indoctrinating and allowing the strengthening of corporations that continue to exploit the poor. If we adopt liberation theory, this leads to 3 things. 1, if we are loud about it in our criticisms of capitalist structures and feudalism, it makes sure that we have reached people who, 1, left the church previously because we were becoming irrelevant, or 2, to new people who never considered the church because they were so busy with their own essential needs. I think if opening government argues that we have so much capacity to be everywhere, us being everywhere means we have more reach in the most relevant way possible to recruit people, which is feeding programs, which is the consistency of our message, which is the third thing. When we change the structures and what we expect out of our members, but when we change the narratives that we have against big corporations, we become more consistent in our advocacy that people who are poor and suffering ought to be alleviated. What does this lead to good outcomes? 1, we increase the relatability of the church to the people on the ground. So they are more likely to join us and more likely to opt in. Second, you alleviate the immediate suffering of these individuals. I argued this in a previous round that when you alleviate lower level Maslow hierarchy of needs, people are able to access higher order needs such as security and self-actualization through religion. It is opening up that capacity to worry about these types of things that you exclusively get when you alleviate the suffering and re-alleviate that suffering. But last, I think when we prove to poor people that you need us and we will feed you, you are more likely to get more people to eat in your canteens and you can baptize them later on. Why are these things important? 1, you save souls. 2, you recruit more people who are able to spread your message to recruit more people. And I think that is fundamentally better in making the Catholic Church great again.
Notice how all the examples and models, feeding, community building, and charity, are no different from opening opposition. You have to tell us that challenging a government that remove you in power is actually good.
No. I never said that we are challenging the government. We are challenging the establishment. I think this is the way that governments did rise, such as Trump and President Duterte. It is in challenging the entrenchment of the establishment that we are able to get these types of benefits because of the consistency in message. It is 1, ensuring that we are not only practicing, but we are also talking about these types of things. That clear consistency is what enables us to be able to recruit actively, because we are not saying that we care about you on one hand, but actively accepting donations allocations from rich corporations that continue to exploit the poor. The rise of anti-establishment in America is the analysis of why there's disagreement with the politics. Us supporting broad-scale politicians who are in favor of the rich and the establishment like Hillary Clinton and Wall Street is us becoming more disconnected from the needs of white Americans who needed food, who needed jobs. It is us being part of that anti-feudalist, anti-capitalist structure that makes us one, palatable to the leaders in an increasingly anti-establishment world, but to make sure we are relevant to the needs of the time. And the needs of the time is that we are no longer being catered to by governments that used to exist and by corporations that capture policy and prevent us from enacting real change. So I think if change ought to happen, change starts within.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 26 seconds.
Thank you very much, member of government, to present the opposition's case, member of parliament.
I have an interesting anecdote. In my company that I will not name drop, we hold monthly masses where the priests tell employees vague values like retaining honesty and doing the best at your job. The same priest, when I attended this mass at a regular church elsewhere in the city, discussed explicitly about media distracting you from plunder done by big companies and Imperial Manila. Father Tabora, as another example as well, does not name drop PRRD as a human rights violator, but he writes articles about mining companies that quote-unquote rape the earth and how bypassing due process is us raping the Constitution. So we think what we should all agree on is the church, with its long history, is not blind. It knows the evils of capitalism and imperialism. It knows its guilt of those sins by either active participation or negative neglect. So the question is not whether the church knows its sin, but on how it gets its members to cooperate with its reparation. Because there is no explanation from government side as to say people are likelier to cooperate with all your donations going to all of those feeding programs because you don't massage the concept to them in a way that enshrines the church as the bridge to the eventual knowledge of socialist Jesus or progressive Jesus, right? Because you paint the church now as an enemy of conservative values and someone who does not compromise. So your eventual bridge to socialist Jesus is lost on the people. What's the proper frame? The church is losing relevance. American Catholics want to split off due to Pope Francis being too progressive. China threatens to kick out Catholic bishops and priests that China did not appoint. So this means, in order for you to get more people to follow Christ's beliefs eventually, first you need to stem the bleeding of influence that is happening, which means what we argue is not necessarily to get more followers, but to minimize the loss of political power. So comparatively, we don't think this is the same as Trump automatically becoming popular because he is anti-establishment, because we're not as popular as Trump anymore. Because he already had political capture previously because he had a TV show, he has a lot of cash, for example, to bribe other people and all those kinds of things. I don't think the church can bribe people, so I don't think that's a valid parallel, right? So if the church wants to convince people to be progressive, it needs to stay influential, and at some point it has to compromise to some conservative communities at the end of the day. Because the church may tell you to fuck corporations in one mass because you are an audience that is amenable to these kinds of terms, but when that same priest has to give a sermon to a very conservative rural community, he has to recognize that in order to keep those people listening, he has to adjust his language and let him continuously just be honest and find meaning in the small things in life. The first thing I will argue is the safety net that opening opposition did not talk about. So we think, at the best case, what we get is, we think the harm that is vaguely presented by government side is the idea that some priests, for example, or some followers do just blindly follow the entrenched ideas of being pro-capitalist or pro-imperialist, right? What happens and what's the safety net? The free market of ideas within the church. So priests often meet weekly or monthly with others within their own region, so conservative priests can discuss disagreements with progressive priests.
within the church or their neighboring church. You have subtle call-outs by Pope Francis of corporations raping the planet through encyclicals like Laudato Si, or another pope calling out the absence of workers' rights in Rerum Novarum. We think this safety net is sufficient. This was not proven by opening opposition because on average, this means the moderate priest will be swayed, or the moderate laity is going to be swayed, and they will tone down their pro-capitalist sermons or their pro-capitalist discussions with their fellow citizens. We argue further that the loss is going to be tolerable even on the worst extent. Because what we will not, the people that we will not convince are those who are ultra-conservative, which you can't change anyway. So what you get under closing opposition is you're able to massage the eventual socialist Jesus when you ensure that the church is a bridge to people who have conservative values. What's the meta-analysis after this, I promise? We think this is important because this grounds how priests resist and adjust to their particular nuanced audiences and how they're able to increase their likelihoods of success depending on their audience. We think this is important because this does not deny the failure of this approach, but this explains why the safety net is enough. And OO just said that this exists but not explain why this is sufficient. We think this explains our worst case and why it's okay. This is also more valuable than OO's discussion of authoritarian government resistance because the greater threat to mitigate is not the external resistance of corporations or governments, but the internal resistance by your priests themselves against this liberation theology, which is not automatically invade to them. Because not everyone goes to a progressive church, or not everyone has a progressive church school or something like that. This also responds to the idea that even if it's not a country that you're resisting, what you should try to resolve is the resistance within your own community.
So there are more poor people in the world than there are rich people. If we lose the rich members, we still gain more poor members. But we can also ask the rich members to pay their tithes so that we can use them to help poor people.
I don't like for the rich to pay their tithes. If what they receive from their sermon is, you should fuck all those businesses that try to steal the labor of the poor and seek to just export the value of their labor elsewhere. We think that is not the best way to convince rich people to donate to the poor. But the second thing is, in terms of the church's perception from the laity, because the issue of getting more people to heaven is responded by this. What happens in GOM is you basically convert the church to an NGO and you automatically say that all donations should help the public poor. This is going to be largely unpopular because this puts off some people who think their money should only go to poor Catholics, for example. So they won't donate, so the feeding programs are going to be impaired. Or talking about those rich Catholics, for example, that you want to donate to the poor, they're less likely to do so when liberation theology says that their entire business is unethical because every consumerist action in capitalism is unethical, right? So we think you get less resources, so in your ability to help the poor, that's far worse in their side. The converse is, when donation isn't a core tenet, people are less likely to resist because of the lack of political tying up of these kinds of things. But the second thing is, this puts the creation of a place of worship secondary because your money goes to feeding programs that people don't necessarily consent to, as opposed to creating symbolisms and structures within your church that make people see the grandiosity of your religion and believe in a higher being in the avoidance of hell. We think you cover all of those bases under closing officer.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 20 seconds.
Thank you very much, Member of Hall, to close government's debate. Government. Here.
There's an old saying that says the religion is seen to be the opium of the poor, and this has often been accused as a false promise to the masses. We proposed government believe that the knowledge that comes from active criticism of unjust institutions is what gives respite to those who yearn for justice, and the first step to finally attaining that justice that they want. It is the liberation theology belief liberation theology belief is the promise of God to his people made whole. There are two questions I want to answer in today. First is what is the extent to which the Catholic Church should wield their power? Because this is an important discussion of extent. Secondly, is the model essentially better for the interests of the faithful? First question, what is the extent to which the Catholic Church should wield their power? Notice that opposition did agree to do something about the problem, but they had no discussion as to how this would work. Like when the grassroots mobilized against a powerful institution without being backed up by an equally powerful entity, I don't understand how they will be more successful in addressing the problems which they recognize exist. Like we need the church to be able to unify individuals, to be able to back up these people and give them the credibility that they need to be able to go up against the state. Leader of opposition says that we shouldn't be abrasive, but rather we need to compromise so that our people don't end up sacrificing themselves. First is, they assume that criticism equals hostility. I don't think that's the case. That's exactly why we don't accept it when a terrorism bomb somebody and says, this is my opinion. Like obviously, criticism doesn't necessarily mean violence or hostility that was merit attack from the state. Secondly, if they want compromise, isn't criticism an essential part to achieving compromise with other social institutions? Like, you don't get compromise by just agreeing to literally everything. Notice that opening opposition discussion is basically on the utter refusal to disagree with the state. Essentially, they're being complicit to the government and the injustices when in fact they themselves promised that they would try to solve the problem in their own special way. Second, even if we assume all the harms that were discussed by opening opposition, that we elicit the retaliation of the state, we question. First, this is where they underestimate how powerful the church really is. Because majority of the voters, like the poorest as characters they are Catholics who are voters themselves. I think the state has an interest in exiling them just because they criticize the state. Like even Deputy Prime Minister is smart enough to understand that the church had natural allies that exist on the ground. Like I don't understand where their characterization is because of how isolated and helpless the church really is. But secondly, it's unlikely. If people criticize the state all the time, it is illogical for you to think that the state will just kick people out and leave them out there. But okay, fine. Worst case scenario, even if, fine, the state will end up murdering priests and nuns and altar boys, etc. The good thing about this is that the silver lining, you expose the state for the devils that they really are. That's where you get the international attention that will make you show how evil these institutions and these practices really are. And the only reason why this will happen is that when the church endorses them and envelopes them with the authority that they are working as the faithful of that particular church. This will not happen if the grassroots will unilaterally mobilize and act on their own, separate from the church in itself. In itself. Okay.
In Catholicism, every life actually counts. So if you're okay to compromise some so that we could win more or your values for more, that creates a tension between what you stand for and what the Catholic Church believes in.
There's this argument coming from Leader of opposition. We don't want people to go to hell because we don't want them to be hostile. Okay, the way I see it, Mr. Chair, it's more likely I think the apathetic are more likely to go to hell than a person who makes the Christ-like sacrifice of being able to give up his own life for the love of others. Like, I don't understand why this is inconsistent with the values of the followers as well. So this is not, but we need to remind you, Mr. Chair, that this is not just about challenging the government and society, but rather challenging the injustices of socio-economic practices like capitalism, imperialism, and feudalism that exist everywhere, even beyond the administration. So even whereas we will be criticizing the governments within, but it also means that we will also be aligning with good state actors, people like Lenny Robredo, individuals who are pro-poor. Like obviously we will also be looking at corporations who will ally with us that practice their corporate social responsibility. So what happens, Mr. Chair, is that even if opposing opposition says that some of the rich people will not donate with us anymore, fine, we might lose out on some of the rich donors, but these are the rich, evil people that we do not want to be associated with anyway. That we will still have good state actors, wealthy individuals who are still aligned with the church, who will protect us. And they never explain to us how we will essentially lose out on all the capital, especially when Papa himself explained that we're still going to get more than because most of the people who are allied with the church and who are voting in society are individuals who are poor and oppressed and are desperate and are needed the support from the church. So let's talk about the interest of the faithful. Diallo explained this weird argument where it's really bad because church priests are like corrupt and they can't be held accountable. But how does refusing to acknowledge systemic abuses make them more accountable? How does it make us more aware of what we can do about these particular individuals? As a matter of fact, a lot of corruption that happened in the church is a reflection of the corruption that happens out of the other administrations as well. We think that these criticisms give us the impetus to be able to look inward and be able to call out these people who are no longer be seen as infallible. Then there's this member of opposition discussion about how you should let the little churches decide because you will ruin the plight of the moderns. Now, first of all, we think that this is unlikely because the way I see it is that if these small institutions or these small branches of the church are afraid to act, it is the endorsement of the larger church community that will make them get the commitment because there's a guarantee that some people will back them up, that they are not unilaterally acting anymore. Besides, the church is already acting in itself. Like, obviously, followers will do whatever the church will tell them. The church should take advantage of this particular method, of this particular power, and use it and use it. But more importantly, Papa explained to you how the church needs to be more proactively engaging with the unjust practices because it's more strategic. Like feeding the poor who are willing to listen to your ideas about labor abuses and consumer rights, or the criticizing politicians who will be competing against the pro-Christian politicians that will be running in the next elections. We want to be able to make sure that these are situations where we can act upon because we want to be able to fix the injustices before they happen. Why? Because we don't want the followers to be able to move up with the church because they feel betrayed, because the church never recognized the harms of capitalism. They never told them about the harms of labor abuses, etc. The church never did anything about it. So in the end, we are able to make sure that we not only are able to keep the followers that we have and prevent them from suffering from the unjust practices that exist, and we also make sure that more people are brought in, we gain more power, and the ball goes forward. And that's exactly how we do everything for the greater glory of God.
Speaker April for 7 minutes and 10 seconds.
Thank you very much, member of government whip, to finally end the debate on opposition. Here.
Mr. Chair, the main reason why closing opposition will take this round is mainly because of this particular factor that I need to highlight that is mainly coming from Sean or my member. It's the specific nuance to the dynamics of how we should consider certain demographics or certain aspects of teaching or inculcating faith into people to garner support. What am I going at, Mr. Chair? Basically, what closing opposition is telling is that in order for the church to get more support, it's that we can't do it in a blanket policy, which is what government is trying to fight for. Because under government, what's going to happen is that if the entire Catholic Church as an entity is going to adopt liberal theology, then meaning if the Pope adopts this, if the Pope or the highest hierarchy in the system adopts this, everybody else is going to have to adopt this because that's according to their doctrine and they have to do this. That is something that's very limiting and is not sensitive and unresponsive to the nuances pointed out by Sean. I will argue on that later, more in my clarifications. But first, let's do a response on the intergovernment side, right? First, responding to opening government. Basically, what opening government in summary told us is that because there are historical injustices attributed to the Catholic Church, then the Church must pay for those. Mr. Chair, the way that OG paints it comes off as the Church must actively engage in reducing poverty in capitalism and imperialism. Mr. Chair, we question, is this even how it should go? We concede that the Church must aid in the reduction of the socio-economic issues, but not in the way OG wants it to work. Their model makes the Church into something that is less and less a church, but more and more a humanitarian organization, providing donations to the people or whatnot. We concede that helping the poor is in the values of the Church, but we contend that the helping of the poor does not necessarily mean the Church literally giving donations to the poor, although that's also a valid lens, but we believe that the helping of the poor ideology is not an act that the Church is burdened to do, but rather it's supposed to be a mentality or a doctrine, an idea to inculcate into your followers of the Church. So Mr. Chair, it's not mainly about which model gives more resources to the Church, but also one aspect. But basically, government is so focused on making the Church accountable that they fail to argue on the actual power of a church, which is a pool of followers. So why is then, closing opposition's model very important to this? This is because of the specific nuance that priests, if they pursue to get more followers, cannot always practice liberal theology in all scenarios. What are we talking about? Since Sean already pointed out to you that even without liberal theology, there are already people that are opting out of the Catholic faith because it's too much focused on helping the poor and not actually increasing the Catholic faith as it is. The analysis that not all Catholics are supporters of the Catholic Church because the church donates to the poor. Some are actually people that support the church for the Catholic faith because they just are very passionate about the Catholic faith. Mr. Chair, it even came to the point where they were telling us that it's going to be an argument on how it's better for the government at the end of the day because they get more support whatsoever. But before I continue, yes, Club opinion.
The fact that CO wants to prioritize the retention of supporters over criticism is already them being dismissive to the moral obligation of the church. That no analysis for retention of the members is also the priority of the church.
Shame. At the end of the day, Mr. Chair, just because the church has to prioritize giving money to the people, where does the church even get its resources or money? It comes from the people. So you can always tell us that the church has to be the one doing this. But if this is actually their pursuit, then we believe it is still best that we try to prioritize getting more supporters. So the debate is now come to the point on which model is actually more sensitive to the nuances that could either get more support for the church or lose more support for the church. Mr. Chair, if the problem is socio-economic problems, and the way that we can resolve that is by the church actively helping the poor, but in order for the church to actually have sufficient social, political, and financial capital to help the poor, they need to get more support for the church and the Catholic faith. In our model, in opposition's model, liberal theology is something that is not standardized. In the model of the government, liberal theology is going to be adopted by the entire Catholic Church and going to be practiced at all times. Sean was very important because something that the priest can use in the right context at the right time is something that we need to adopt. In his model, and how Sean paints it, it allows, you let the smaller churches move at their own pace. Why is this something that's very important, Mr. Chair? Because we're going to analyze the demographics of people, the specific nuances of people under the Catholic faith that support the Catholic Church. Not all of them are going to be enticed to continue joining the Catholic Church, or maybe outsiders of the faith aren't going to be enticed mainly to join the Catholic Church just because the church helps poor people. Because if that's the only motivation, then these people would rather just, could bring their resources to maybe NGOs that actually directly help these poor people. But at the end of the day, something that we need to also respond to is how closing government tells us certain things. They told us that this model has increased relatability, so more people opt into the Catholic Church, and that if the church is more pro-poor and anti-capitalism, then more people will want to follow the Catholic Church. That's already responded to by Sean, and now we told you that that's not actually the case. There is a specific nuance, a specific aspect that we need to be sensitive about if we want to reduce the amount of people that we lose just because we're trying to practice Catholic faith. It's noble that the church wants to play an active role in trying to inculcating, anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist mindsets to its people. But since the Catholic Church has to concede that some people in their faith, maybe, under those kinds of beliefs, maybe some people are capitalists in their church, or some are imperialists, and maybe why is it important then to still try to retain those people? That's because the fact that CG is telling us that we can just lose all the rich people because we don't need them because we have poor people is something that's entirely false. Why is that so? Why is the problem when you lose the rich people? If they're going to tell us that CO is going to fail because under our model, we're not directly giving resources to the poor people, the counter-narrative that's going to make us win is that the fact that we're paying close attention to trying not to offend the capitalist Catholics or imperialist Catholics. Most often than not, these capitalist Catholics or imperialist Catholics are probably people of high importance or high influence or high financial capital. What is then the value of trying to be sensitive to those people and not just disregarding them if they get offended? Because Mr. Chair, whatever profits we lose from poor people opting out of the Catholic faith, we get in resources that we get from those capitalists. Because if we're trying to if we're going to be a Catholic Church that pays sensitive to the beliefs of those people, we're going to increase the chances of those capitalists giving us more resources, right? And why is that then important? If the fact that if we're going to want to get the poor people back into the Catholic faith is going to be a matter of giving them donations, then we get that kind of power more in our model when we don't rely on the money of the poor to help the poor, but rather on the money of the capitalists and the imperialists to help the poor. At the end of the day, Mr. Chair, closing opposition was the only one that specified to you this very crucial harm, the harm of a blanket policy not being able to meet what's actually happening on the ground or what's the specific dynamics of demographics and culture and different people. At the end of the day, this is the main reason why people should not always just listen to what the church says. Here.